Think we're in. Okay, hello everyone. Hi. I am Alex Ward. I'm a data and AI consultant for Acora. And today I'm going to be talking about capacity planning in Microsoft Fabric. Now, cards on the table, this presentation comes from a place paid. I have struggled with this personally with customers and internally. So I'm hoping that I can pass on what I've learned to you guys. So we'll get into it. Okay, so we've got the fabric structure. So, okay, so fabric is split into a compute layer. So it's got all of your workflows in the compute layer. So you've got data factory, analytics, everything there, including the whole pilot. And you are in charge just every piece of storage in one place. So this is to simplify the product and also simplify your billing. Here you can see there's a few charges. So we have pay-as-you-go pricing. If you opt for the pay-as-you-go pricing, we can pause and resume the capacities, and we can resign the SKUs as required. There is a reservation fee of say 40%, and that is you need to understand your data usage before you even consider that. Once you go to reserve pricing, the kind of life-saving skills of resizing and pause and resume are gone. And just for clarity, the X22 skill will give you one vehicle, so one product, one way ahead. One of the products of capacity is bursting. So we get bursting, which one who's dealt capacities would have heard quite often. Bursting enables us to temporarily use all of the CPU that we've got in that capacity. So if we have a workload that needs acceleration, or it just needs more power to ingest data, it's available, but it's not free, it's borrowed. So an example scenario is we've got a job that runs on 64 CUs per minute. With bursting, we can take 256 CUs, finish 56 seconds, and hang it back later. The approach is useful for critical tasks, and it avoids flexibility and scalability against constantly resizing the capacity. Although some has, it's not unlimited, and the bursting will give you an F2, you can go times 32 on CPU usage, and F4 is times 16, I believe, and the rest of it is times 12. So anything above there we can do times 12 boost for a limited time, but we're borrowing. Smoothing is where we grab that persistent and say, who's a good boy? We calm it down, and then we smooth it the rest of the day. So we're settling down on that bursting. But we are borrowing on that capacity, so here we're spreading it out throughout the day. So the purpose is that we prevent users from being penalised, but we ensure that we've got consistent fast performance without every problem. Again, that's the dream. How smooth it works is we've got CPU usage and average over a longer time frame. So it's distributing that consumption across future time bursts. And each time burst in Fabric is 30 seconds long. So whenever we're looking at example, we're looking at 30-second bursts. So there are 2,808 time bursts in a 24-hour period. Fabric automatically manages that allocation across these time bursts. And when we're talking about operations that are that use bursting and smoothing, we have two types. We've got interactive and we've got background. So interactive operations, as the title suggests, it's when we are interacting with a product. Now we can have 5 to 64 minutes smoothing I've left that in because that's a ridiculous figure. Microsoft have declared 64 minutes. I don't understand it, but it's myself. But for the purpose of this presentation, we're going to bring to 60 later. So we use Power BI. Anytime we open a report, any rendering, we've got direct query, we're interacting with those measures, those calculations, and the user data functions. So surprisingly, KQL is also interactive. So any event stream process is going to be considered as interactive. The traffic API for the GraphQL and also the databases.
Question.
Yep.
So what is the effectively business use of a further smoothing period? At least it's done with that.
It's all allowed for a limited time. So we're going to come on to the visualization that happens. The users, the point of the first thing smoothing is the users are effective. But again, that's the degree, right? So it's from tools to manage that resistance in the So background operations are smoothed over 24 hours. PWI is also in background efficient when it comes to schedule refreshes, core subscriptions, and interactive queries. We have data factory and our data flow system and all this. So whereas like a system. Smooth benefits. We've got a reduction in the CPU impact on the system time, but it minimises the risk of throttling, not the risk of throttling, and allows our operations to run together without causing no performance faults. It enables better scheduling and resource utilization, and the users experience faster performance without needing to manage job timing. Here we've got first things we've got let's this visualization run. It's too quick to see, but I'll put it down next. So we'll see that everything gets flattened throughout the day, throughout either interactive jobs on 5 to 60 minutes or background jobs for 24 hours. So here's the first stage. Regardless of skill, background system will automatically allocate those resources. So it'll see what capacity you have, and then it will analyse it for the rest of the day, and I've got run this here. One query would consume the whole workload time of the day, which is ridiculous. To avoid an overload, smoothing it. And here we get all of those queries flat indexed. So we just try, no, we restrict our overload. Instead of allowing the right way we used to create a local overload, it smooths it few windows in a buy now and pay later. It's the installment plan. So we've already got these three processes. They're starting to stamp up. We see that 64 CUs on that line. Now we've got a large batch job. And then that is going to threaten the interactive queries. But DBA would have traditionally had to carefully schedule these jobs. They still do. A similar installment plan is used for the bash. So the bash job is smoothed and applied uniformly for 24 hours. So it lines our program. You think the top of the rest of the day. And let's see, this completely operated DAA, any consideration of your schedule. No, it's not. Most importantly, regardless of when batch jobs are scheduled, there will be no degradation on interactive query reports. So even after smoothing the jobs start time enough, when this happens, the capacity is always moving over to say. So we've got this carrying forward option in there, where it's going to start picking things up the top and pushing it to the side. So we've got the usable limits in the future periods adds to the smoothing to the less spikes. When we're thinking of capacity along the two dimensions, the percentage consumed and the amount of future capacity that is available to us. Here's an example. So I'm just going to read through it. It's a lot of numbers, but it kind of lays out what it's thinking. So we've got a background job that uses one CU ever. and then the wave fabric then exists per second. So we've got 3,600 CUs per second. Fabric is going to spread this evenly across 24 hours. So remember, we've got 2,880 time points. So each time point gets 1.25 CUs. And then F2 will give you 2 CUs per second. So that's 60 CUs per 30 second time point. And the job share per time point is 1.25 divided by that 60. So it gives us around 2%. And the impact on the rating that's going to have, if it's in a 10-minute window, we've got 1,200 CUs available. So the job contributes 25 CUs in that time. 1.225 times 20 time costs. The throttling impact again is that 2.1%. If we're doing it over a 60-minute window, we've got 7,200 CUs. So the job contributes 150 CUs, and the impact again is that 2.1. Spreading it further. The throttling, I don't really think is needed that image. I don't think I have, or it's sad the way, so we're all right. So throttling happens when there's no future capacity to pay back. So we've got that overage. It's only on the capacity level. So we're not going to expect the entire tenant out, we're expecting capacity. And basically, about multiple capacities to stop this being an issue. So we can delay or reject operation depending on the usage. And this is caused by build-up of background activities and heavy interactive queries. So a lot of usage at the same time. We've got longer than semantic models to cause the issue. We've got longer than usual running transformation jobs. So if you've got all the data coming in that you're expected, then we've got to trouble. When we're really running jobs and refreshes, and the number of operations isn't fit for capacity. Here's the stages to answer your question. So we've got the throttling alerts. What we'll see across the platform is we'll see state code in the notebooks. We'll see if the capacity limit has been exceeded. In the notebooks, we've got visualization, queuing capacity has exceeded its limits. So semantic models cannot load. But the reality of what you're seeing, what's here, if you can't, you will say, I can't get my reports. I can't run my product. And these are kind of the throttling stages that we get. So if Fabric sees that we have enough capacity over the next 10 minutes, it's not going to throttle us. It's going to give us our detection. So it's going to give us that burst, but we'll smooth it out very gradually. If it's between 10 and 60 minutes, that is when you get users mining of interactive delay. There'll be a 20-second delay on you giving their reports when the item they've got. If the capacity is not, if it can't sustain that 60 minutes to 24 hours, we get interactive rejection. So users are refused to play the platform. If it's more than 24 hours, that's when we've got real issues. That's when background rejection happens. So that's when you're going to see your data files are failing. Any new job will not be able to overtake the existing job. So we need that technical hats on. We've got to find out what happened. And there's 3 products that I use. There's 4 that I use. There's 3 that I think everyone should use. That's the monitoring tab, the capacity metrics app, and then the chargeback app. The first one is built into the product, so we can see in the monitoring tab. The next are installable for free items. The monitoring tab. This tells us what is happening at the current time. So we can identify the impact of the current outage, which operation needs to continue, who or what is impacted, and can we cancel anything to free up the capacity. Importantly, here we can identify the failed operations, so figure out what needs to be reinforced. Somebody else got gas sound at a time. The limitations, we haven't got the interactive activities, and we don't tell the operators you have access to, which I'm assuming the majority is for the admins. and it lacks that detailed analysis. This is your bread and butter, so this should be being monitored throughout the day. The capacity metrics app will give you detailed point-in-time analysis of throttling and rejection. All of these visualizations you can drill down into, and what I suggest is when you're using it, you select the day, you drill down further into the hours, and then you can use the side figuring out so on. It identifies which operations get throttled, identify which operation causing the capacity issues, and monitor those problematic operations. It's a layout of it, so top left, we've got the CPU consumption by operation type. And then number two, we've got the overview of capacity usage, which we can drill into, drill through into time costs, but at the top, we can also see rolling overages and any system events through costs. Below, we've got the item list, and that will give you CPU consumption across all your items.
I've seen that in the monitoring thing before. Not sure why there's a predicted version
of which,
right?
No. So, yeah. That's what we've got at the moment. What I'd like to see is exactly what's happening right now. So as my capacity is increasing, I can put a stop to it as and when. It's not there yet. They are kind of teasing features, new releases, but at the moment, what they're investing time is improving the capacity metrics app. So we've got a new help page. We've got time course summaries rather than details, but they are improving because they'll now kind of it's in here. So when we drill down, we've got the base capacity. So we can see that the percentage of the capacities across interactive and background. Adding together, if they're over 100%, you're going to decrease, you're going to have some throttling. Underneath, you've got your overages, which basically tells you this is your bit of the day, what you've got to pay off. And it tells you in what time you're going to pay off that overage. Not 100% accurate, but it's as much as we've got at the moment. Sorry, Daniels.
Yeah, so we can so using that page, you can predict how many hours that is. You might come back.
You can. I don't know if I found this to be accurate enough yet. But what it does tell me, what I want to pass on to this team is, look, we're going to be struggling with at least this amount of time. So let's figure out what we can cancel, what we can struggle later. And one, and then the majority, especially on the side of the past Saturday, you're going to honestly sit on it for a while.
I've honestly said, since then, you can advance it, although it is support. You knew the job. It was the worst when it was simply yeah, and you see saying, did you get it or not? Be able to get because it's the capacity planning.
Absolutely.
They know when they come instead of getting capable words. Not.
That's the thing. They're advertising this free thing. It's not true. So, capacity management is see things that people go basically by my data list. So remember the smoothing? We've got always with boys, not a boy, in and birds in. This is all over the floor. We've got to clean that out with the data. Okay. So we've got the smoothing that you can see here. We're looking at the 2nd of October, but we still have smoothing from the 1st. So that needs to be factored in when you're looking at this report. So it's not just what's happening there. Always got to remember that we have this capacity. And you can see the bottom there, the overages are just throughout the day. Item performance is quite detailed. It's detailed enough that you can say, right, this pipeline needs optimization. But the colour coding is very useful as well because it will point out to a product optimization. It doesn't tell you what you need to do with. It just says something's going wrong here. And it tends to be with those heavy systematic models. The chargeback app is fairly recent. I think it must still be a preview. But this is how we configure it with our phone. So we can split off between workspace, item, and domain. So we can really figure out who is using the most capacity. So it'll show the percentage of capacity used as they provide data to the details. It drills through capabilities. Again, you're going to be able to see the workspace detail, item detail, domain and subdomain detail. You can also export this, but yeah, it's a large export in the 16 units. But
Alex, you need to be a Fabric admin to see all of these apps, or are there other rules that you can?
You can be a capacity admin as well. So the apps themselves you can give access to. So you can create a workspace and you can give workspace access to people to view it. I'm actually wrong there. Yeah, you can just add things into the app workspace and then everyone can use this. And honorable mention should be more on honorable mention, but I personally, I've tried this report. I've tried this as long as information, but for me, my way of working, because this is new information, right? That's not saying you shouldn't give this a go. It's available on GitHub. It's fairly easy to install. My tip would be do not install it on the capacity that you want to manage, because when that crashes, you won't get reports. So install this separately. It's quite process as well. So as soon as a report, it is kind of great where you put it. But great report gives you a lot of detail and it enables you to proactively look at on the item level what you need optimization in. So specifically what apps you should look at, data objectives they mentioned, heavy on resource, they are big business in it, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. And then you've got your inefficient semantic models. Also, it's going to be a problem no matter what we do. If it's heavy on tasks, it's heavy on calculate on, we've got pages. Those models are going to be labour intensive. Calculated reports, as much as the majority of us want to move away from the ideal, there is a stay. So, and then we've got complex user queries, inefficient tasks, analyzers Excel, and then the event heads and calculators. So what can we do? We need to be able to move to cheap workflows. So there are options. Data flow JSON, we can move down outputs. Now, that's option to build for the business users that come from a BI background. They're an easy way to get into Fabric. What we need to do is give them a notebook template. Don't go in the Python's not scary. We can template it easy, and they've got a co-pilot that helps as well. So, move them over to notebooks as best we can. Some semantic operations. Do that transformation. We did build it, some sort of like and use directly. Paginated reports, move to Power BI dashboards, which might not be possible because people love paginated reports. That's optimization. We have a built-in best practice analyzer there. So you specifically look through your DAX and get that help from Copilot. And within Copilot, if you're finding that the organization is using Copilot a lot, resource heavy, move it to its own specific workflows we can look at. We can optimize the warehouse. Now, warehouse is service architecture, so the future can manage automatically. It's a background operation, so again, one of these moved over to the warehouse. It's a performance of SQL and then reports. So there are limited queries when we compare these to traditional SQL endpoints. The efficiency tips want to use optimally SQL, so they limit columns, calculation joins, minimizing the data types. So if you have bar chart, limit the native performance to 25. So all of these things basics that we know in data, they can be employed here. Apply the starting teamwork for better performance and maintain and updated statistics, preferably with a bulk scan for accurate execution plans. These are added automatically, but we can manually change those. You have a monitoring tool built in, so you can use things assist, underscore exit, underscore requests, that will give you live queries for tracking, and then you can use queries and source to get more information. When it comes to data science, we can write efficient Spark code, so optimize for transformations and avoid unnecessary operations. Reserve only the required executors to prevent resource contention, so you can limit your Spark pools. You can even remove the bursting and smoothing if it's required. Stop inactive Spark sessions, so they can linger on, even when they're in pipeline and they're being run, they can linger on for 20 minutes. So use that code, add that near the end of every notebook. So MS Spark utils.session.stop. And that'll stop it in its tracks and we move on that CPU to someone else. You can use the first factor, so leave those parallel Spark jobs within skew limits and monitor the usage within the monitoring hub to track the allocation of job performance. Data factoring, we've got to avoid inefficient reviewing. So if someone is doing a lot of merging, sorting, again, get that stuff in the warehouse, help them out. Enable query folding to full transformations. Disable the staging for small and simple workloads. It's unless it's necessary, just disable it. And refresh data only when it's needed. So figure out if you need daily, weekly, and go on that. Optimize KPI. It's split up into interactive operations and background operations. So a full model design. So get that stuff here involved, remove complex design less. Inefficient data measures, helping people to use data correctly, or even use calculators to allocate to improve on the data. Overloading 4 pages, 6 to 8 pages you will do if you don't want visualizations all over the place. And high concurrency, you've got too many users, instead of enabling queries scaled. Background operations, we've got complex heavy query transformations. Again, it's all got to be up and down to just get those sorted. Lack of query folding or incremental refreshes. And if we use the material like use, we've got those incremental data refreshes now. Report bursting, simultaneous generation of many on reports, we put a stop to it, simplify what reporting is required. Yeah. And then we need to stop throttling. So capacity resume over 24 hours. So the best course of action is any people can wait. You can wait until the owner's state ends before submitting requests. And pause will be tempted to pause the CPR. So capacity pause resume. Pause is triggered at the beginning of this. This is not an additive size. So it's never going to be free. You're going to be making back those see hash all the time. So when we're using the capacity, it does start as a zero future usage, or you need a bit to explain. We can temporarily increase the CPU as long as there's not a elevation. So if the job's coming in, we can push it from an F8 to an F16, let it successfully finish, and then reduce. This needs constant monitoring. This accelerates carry forward, but then reducing the throttling. We can also switch capacities. So the capacity available that you can add your workspaces to. You can't move to certain amounts in capacity, it has to be a whole workspace. So factor that in when you're planning workspaces or capacities. The capacities have to be in the same region as well. You will not be able to add a workspace from UK in the South to North Europe. Prevention is obviously the best way to deal with it. So we can set our notifications in the admin portal. We can set for a specific percentage, and when we when we've reached 100 as well. Reaching 100 isn't straight away you have the reacts. And I know what it's go back to your metrics. If you're ready, you need to take action. Obviously, when make others aware, but you might not need to take immediate action. So monitoring the metrics up. Apply surge detection. So this suggests new background operations, keep capacity available for interactive operations, but your users won't see the issues. You give a rejection threshold and a recovery threshold. You protect interactive processing. Auto-scale unit sparkles has recently released, and this will remove all your findings from your capacity. It's a trial the page you go, and what I'm seeing, I've used this myself, what I'm seeing, the people I'm seeing, some decent savings. So it's one to consider. And then we've got a lot of capacity. So planning deployment. So we're going to take a step back, and we're going to start at the beginning. So you started out with your new deployment. What kind of things do you need to consider? Use that back control capacity. They give you 60 days on an M64. It'll already be with repeat and repeat until terminal. So use that wisely. Have this in your users in your organization. It's fine to do, and you can use the same capacity. When you're building a proof of concept, you'll start narrow. So a small use case. Get it figured out correctly, monitor it all the time, and just make sure that you're on top of your capacity. Use a dedicated workspace, isolating to isolate your concept away from your production environments, so that you can further analyse what's going on in there. Review control limitations. There's region limitations, that kind of thing, but it won't really affect us. Monitor usage and gather feedback. So have users available to give you feedback on the products that you're giving out. Next, we want to move from development to pilot. We want to estimate and acquire capacity. So you use everything that you learned from the trial and monitoring, and get the capacity that you need. There are CPU estimators that you can use. One in the preview was the CPU and your modular data, the workloads you're using. It should give you a pretty accurate representation. It's not going to be the standalone view of your capacity metrics app. So develop on non-production capacities to allow that flexibility and without stressing the users. Run the control pilots with a larger user group, where you can monitor the performance and get that feedback. Optimize the solution. So we want to reduce everything that we're using as much as we can, so that it fits into our capacity. That's our first step before multi-sizing. Forecast the production needs. So basically, your pilot metrics choose the correct SKU for you. The next, we want to move to production. And we want to scale up to production capacity. So we know what we need, and then we'll apply the correct capacity for it. Monitoring continuously in that capacity metrics. Just make it a routine that you go in there once a day, at least, to see exactly what's going on. Leverage auto monitoring features like smoothing. If you can use those efficiently, well done. Hopefully you can. And it will give you detail load throughout the day. Optimize continuously. So work with the centre of excellence. Get yourself some data engineers, some data analysts, data scientists, all working together to optimize your workloads. We want to plan for a scale up or a scale out. So we want to either restart that capacity, or my preference is going to be scaling out. So separating the capacities for what it does. Implement governance, so assign monitoring responsibilities and user detection, and always be looking at that capacity metrics out. Communication is important. You don't want someone having too many swings. So we've got the daily status, make sure that all of the anything you work for, I really need to understand capacities, because this is, you're not going to be able to set up running on board, right? So if everyone needs to be on top of it, understand what work's required of it, ensure that the devs understand that and they collaborate as well, and isolate the workflows. So if you've got any data ingestion, make sure it's away from the arrival. This, I'm going to start next week because this is my more capacity model. This is what I'm using at the moment, and it's working quite well. So we have our initial set of capacity, which we can forward when I'm using it. So we've got, that's where our pilot's going to take place. That's where new products and system projects we need to all going to work in this one capacity. Once we're happy that they're not using too many CPUs, we can then move on to test and dev and test. And that should be one capacity itself. You can separate it, that's a third, one where dev, test, and prod, and then that's great. But dev and test works fine. So we've got everything in there that we're analysing throughout the day. Then we move on to our prod capacity, which has got more SKU than we need. Right? So it's roughly we're averaging around the 50% usage. We've got really bursting and smoothing. Separate the audio. You don't want your problems at the back end being reflected in the CEO reports. You don't want that powerful. Right? So separate it, and you won't have any issues. We've then got two more capacities down here. So we've got a recovery capacity, which is available for a workspace that is just taking too much capacity. If they've got an unexpected data load, we can move them over to recovery and save everyone else. And then we've got quarantine capacity. It's got low, it's a low SKU, and we've got limitations on its sparkles. So this is basically punishment. So you guys are not optimizing your workloads, get it in there and something as slow as that, right? So, and always remember, if you're not actually implementing this capacity, if you're just looking after the big, set the quota so that the guys can't just initially use F64 anyway. So set that quota, make sure it's reasonable to your billing, and then you won't have any nasty surprises. That's it. Thank you very much. Then I'll be adding probably 6 presentations to my YouTube channel. So if you want to start, it's there. It will be. And I'm LinkedIn. So it's out of all want to text me for free. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
That's it.
Yeah. I don't actually know whether we've got anything like this is good. So just do all the people